Called it's. We've gone live.
Yeah, we've gone live. JST PH02 connectors. I think he wants.
Every single type of connector that is an XC60 is some type of JST connector.
Yeah, Japanese solderless terminal.
I hated the idea of crimping, so I bought a load of pre-crimped JST. I think these SH 1.0 6P with silicon wires. Because I just can't be bothered. If you buy some of the crimping thing, you've got to buy the crimper and then like 1,000 plugs. And wasn't
You
up to
just get
buying
Jack to do it. That's what I'm going with. He offered to be fair.
Anyway,
45 went up to the loft. Anyway,
hello and welcome to Let's Drone Out. You're tuned in. Today is Thursday, the 10th of the 3rd, 2022. And you're joined by everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello.
The lovely moustache Stephen.
hello everyone.
And I'm Jack, Brighton Till I Fly. And unfortunately, we haven't got Tommy. Something came up, a little emergency, and he's okay. But yeah, he's unable to make it. So I recorded a little chat that I had with him. Got like 10 minutes later. I'm Jack. I'm with Tommy. Tommy can't make it tonight, unfortunately. But we thought we would, record something for 10 minutes. And then hopefully we can kind of arrange and get you back on.
Yeah, let's do a little teaser. How about that?
Yeah, no worries. I have been loving your content, man. I feel really sad for you that you lost your quad in the drink. Like that sucked, but you've been doing deadly catch stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the more interesting adventures. And shout out to the production crew for being okay with me kind of sneaking in some BTS shots here and there. Obviously, it's not. If I could have it my way, I'd just be doing this the whole time. But that's not very professional. At the end of the day, I'm there to do something, not this, right? So,
Yeah.
but they were cool about it, and yeah, I thought it was going to be a great opportunity to kind of share with folks, some of the predicaments that I sometimes find myself in this professional career of mine.
Oh my god. Yeah, how cold? It looked cold, but I'm sure it doesn't come over in camera. Like, how cold was it?
I mean, well, let me preface this by saying that first of all, I got that island blood. I live by the coast. I'm sun, flip flops, and tank top kind of guy. So I get cold very easily, is what I'm trying to say here. But it wasn't. It actually was not that cold. Now, on the way there, I had to stop by Anchorage, Alaska, and that was ridiculously cold. It was like -2 when I landed, and then with like the wind chill factor, it was like negative like 10 or 15 or something like that. But thankfully, that's not where I needed to film. Where I needed to film was actually in a spot called Dutch Harbor, Unalaska, actually, which is really weird. And there it was like the 20s. And then it got colder with the wind chill factor, and then colder when it snowed. So it wasn't incredibly cold, but it was definitely cold for me. And being on shore is definitely warmer than being out at sea. that was way colder. And of course, the snow landing on your face, melting, and then the wind hitting it and freezing it back up again was not fun at all.
Oh my god, that sounds horrible.
It was a little miserable. I basically packed all my snowboarding gear and just kind of hope for the best. And I mean, more or less, it worked out.
Extra pairs of socks and everything, and
yeah, it was literally like just double, triple on like everything. Like it probably took me like 20 minutes just to put clothes on and take clothes off. You're walking around kind of like just like this, but you got to do what you got to do.
That's incredible, man. Also, one of the things that really sort of stuck with me was, when you were getting feedback from the editor guy, and he said like, "Oh, we need a shot of you like panning out," and I was like, "How do you like? How do you explain to him, dude? Like, we got an angle and like with a quad and flying backwards, you'll get. Do you just go, yeah, and
Well, I'm very, very, very used to that discussion. FPV is becoming more prominent, but is absolutely still a very new tool that not very many DPs understand. But thankfully, once I explained to him, like, look, the way this works is that the camera is fixed to the drone flies like a helicopter, and basically the nose of the drone is where the camera's aiming at. So whatever I got to do to maneuver the drone to get to that position is what the camera's going to see. And it was a concept that he understood very quickly. But what also helps is you also provide tricks and solutions. So in that case, he wanted something that kind of pans out to reveal a city, or I think it was the boat harbor at that time. And I said, I could do the same thing. You just got to play the clip in reverse. And he's like, oh, yeah. So there you go. So you just got to be creative in how to get a shot similar to what they want, even if that means doing camera tricks, which is not a new concept in the movie film cinematography world.
Do you get people walking backwards and cars driving in reverse?
Well, I mean, that could be a thing, but in this case, there's not very many people in Dutch Harbor.
No, I can imagine. Yeah,
like not very many people like at all. So that wasn't a problem.
The footage looked amazing, by the way, and I have only I watched about 5 minutes of the thing you were in with Joshua Bardwell about what was it, how becoming professional. So that was kind of cool. Do you want to tell everyone about that? So
well, I mean, you mean about the interview or about just
so
a while, this is a while back actually. I think this is actually even before Alaska, but Bardwell interviewed me, just asking me some general questions about being I guess I always feel weird calling myself a professional FPV pilot, because in my head I'm just playing with toys, man. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always feel weird calling it that. But yeah, he was just asking me questions about like what it's like to do this, to be paid to do this on set, bigger sets and bigger productions. And it's definitely not it's definitely not what I thought. It's really very high stressful environment. You got to really know how to go with the flow and perform under pressure.
Yeah, I remember I saw your bit about being like, I get up at 6 a.m. and they don't need me till 6 p.m. And it's 20 minutes before I go home. I was like, yeah, that sounds like Tommy. You've been legit since Dan. Like, I remember, damn, that was like,
That's how I know you're OG. Anybody who calls that damn or Guns versus Drones or any of that stuff. All right.
No, you were legit. I was just like, man, this kid's got balls. And then they just kind of got even bigger when it came to Duggar Dive.
Well, shoot, I mean, that was kind of the good old days where you could get away with doing semi-gray area flights, right? I feel like if I were to do that today, I would get roasted. I would just get roasted for being irresponsible, or pick one of the very many names that falls into that category.
Yeah, man. But at least were you part of the diving the bridge in Canada?
Yeah, that was me.
Exactly.
That
may have been you.
That was just all me. And what's funny, funny little tidbit about that was just something we were done filming, and I was just like, all right, well, I'm gonna go fly for fun now for like my own channel, and it ended up being really cool. And Capper was like, we got to put that on the Road to Riot channel, and I was all like, all right. And and then that sequence of events happened, and that was sort of the end.
Banned from Canada?
I was banned from Canada temporarily. I was temporarily banned from Canada, but once they finished their investigation and they figured, really, at the end of the day, there was nothing broken, nothing, no rules or anything like that. It was all good.
Oh man, you're so lucky.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on the flip side, it would have been like, if it went on my channel, would it have garnered the same kind of attention? Because I like to make the argument that people that follow my channel kind of already know what to expect and wouldn't, know. They just know what's up. But then it ended up being on the Road to Right channel, and it got a different kind of attention.
I know. For all you snitches, you're gonna get stitches.
Yeah, yeah.
You could take a
So-
prop to your balls.
So those crazy days are gone. Well, I mean, I definitely still have footage that will just never see the light of day, but now I kind of get my fix doing it like on set and in production, because now I get to fly in streets and moving cars like legally, right? So I'm getting it one way or another.
How's your gear? Are you still like totally cool with DJI stuff, even though you lost your quad and what flight control are you using?
I should probably just really expand on that a little bit. Like, look, DJI gear has been fantastic, and the only reason why I lost my video link during that particular shot, we found out later, was that there's a lighting system on that boat that communicates on 5.8, and it was a new system that completely just took down like anything flying in the sky. It actually took a Mavic later on in that same day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the Mavic just freaked out and then toilet bowled and then just decided to sink down into the water. So, that no matter what it was, analog, DJI, digital, whatever, if it was on 5.8 and you were, anywhere within the vicinity when it powered on or communicated, it was just going to take you down. So, yeah, not DJI's fault. Not that I'm trying to back up DJI, but I've been very happy with DJI.
No worries. I'm glad you kind of figured it out and sorted it. What flight control are you using now? Have you switched over to Ultra?
No, I have been with Betaflight, and every now and then I dabble over just to check myself and just see what's new and what's good. And like, I can always get close to what I like, but just getting to the point where I'm happy with the flight performance just comes so much easier in Betaflight, that it's at this point I'm pretty much sold that it's going to be a very long time before people catch up.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. What was I going to say? What happened to I don't know whether you're allowed to talk about this. What happened to the KISS V2 Whoop board you were doing?
It just it was, yeah. So I really wanted that to happen, but it has to do with licensing, and it has to do with just kind of what's happening that I don't want to talk about, because at this point I'm so far separated that I don't even know what's going on anymore. But there's just a lot of back end things about licensing it and who's making the board that was just not panning out. So, but what I've found is that I mean, with Betaflight's features, like especially with the small micros, managing vibrations and frequent resonances is just so much easier to run it. It's just a much better experience, in my opinion, on Betaflight.
No worries. All right, man. We'll call it there. But
right.
Unless you've got anything, have you got anything you're gonna release soon? If you want to plug it.
No. Well, I am running this campaign where I'm just calling it a community build, and really at the end of the day, it's the idea is that whomever's watching the videos can all vote on basically the design and direction of this project. And
a hive mind.
Yeah, so I kicked it off last Friday by just basically asking the community, like, give me a good use case application. So, for example, I want to use it for long range slash like exploration, or something that flies for a very long time, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you just want something that has just the absolute crazy power to weight ratio, or something like that. And so that I'm going to gather everybody's ideas and inputs, and I'm going to put it into a Google Doc sheet that everybody can then vote on. And once that happens, let's just say everybody decides on long range. Okay, great. So for long range, like, I'm going to present what's the next set of like requirements that we need to hit, right? So do we want it to be smaller? Do we want it to be bigger? Do we not care because all we care about is just how long it flies for? Or maybe we want it to fly for a long time, but we also want it to have a little bit of freestyle characteristics. Whatever, I'm going to present all these things, and basically through each step of the R&D process, everybody gets to watch and everybody gets to decide. And the idea is that I'll present the data, I'll do the testing and show you what I'm finding on my side or my suggestions. But then at the end of the day, everybody watching just votes all the way up until the end. And because I have the resources now to not have to worry about hitting MOQs or anything like that, even if at the end of the day, 50 people really at the end of the day want this or buy this, that's all right with me, because it's not like I have to hit like 500 or 1,000.
No worries. Cool, man. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get you back on the show. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
And it's always a pleasure talking to you, man. You're just such a great guy.
For sure. Yeah. And if anybody wants to participate in that, community build that I'm talking about, just go check out my YouTube channel, find the latest video, and then just comment. Drop in your idea there, and then pretty soon I'll be compiling all that, and then we'll see where this goes. But yeah, other than that, always happy to be here, Jack. So
thanks, man.
Let's schedule something soon.
Yep. Hopefully.
And we're back. Hello, everyone. Excellent. Thanks for filming that, Jack.
Yeah, and Cole did put the link in the bottom of the chat, so if you want to go over and look into what Tommy's up to with the community feedback, please follow the link. Thank you, Cole. Sorry, Stephen.
And thanks, Tommy.
Yeah, so unfortunately he just couldn't make it. So, some emergency came up, but hopefully he's all right, buddy. So, how's your week's been, guys? You all right?
Pretty good here.
Who's going first?
Managed to get out flying and had to rinse off my motors today. Beautiful and sunny, but still a nice solid layer of mud on the ground. So managed to get a bit of grit in my AOS 3.5, but it's flying well. And generally messing around with Betaflight 4.3, trying to cajole this H743 all-in-one to fly. It's getting there. It's been an exhausting journey, but I feel we're getting there. And the new Betaflight release is flying an absolute treat. And I have to say the hype is real on Chris Ross's frames. That guy, he evidently knows what he's doing. Yeah, it's greased up, inappropriately. I got some of this really thick grease from Banggood. It's more like glue. You wouldn't really think it was even lube to look at it. Like, it's so thick that it's adhesive, and you have to like wash it off your hands with like neat washing up liquid to get it moving. It's really, really thick. It's worse than engine oil, but I guess it just stops stuff rattling. And that frame has just no vibrations. You can crank everything up just fine, and deals with prop wash, cuts through the air perfectly. It doesn't rattle or wobble around. It's a nice flyer. I've stripped down my first. Where are you? There you are. I stripped down my first DJI air unit as well. My little Vista. I made a naked Vista. I got a bit worried, but I thought I'd just go for it, and seems to have worked okay. So saved 10 grams.
It looks like you could even fit it a full Vista in there anyway.
Oh, you could. I just did this to save 10 grams because it's a wee bit heavy for a 3.5-inch build. I thought it's about the same weight as my 4-inch build, which is more of a kind of, well, it's right there. The 4-inch build's like this, just a toothpick on a, X-frame, single piece frame. And this one's only 3.5, but they weigh about the same. So that guy was actually 10 grams lighter than that one. So I wanted to get that down. So they're both sub 250s with a 750 Mar 4S. And now they are. It's all good.
What about you, Curry? I saw you had some wing action, I think.
I had a bit of wing action in the high wind, which was not too much fun, but I did manage to get iNav seemingly working. The auto launch worked anyway. It was only tricky because I did my first. I intended to do a couple of laps line of sight, so I was like flying into the wind. It's going well. We're turning round, and then the wind caught it, and it's like whoom. So I'm like, oh, it's gone behind me. That's not good. And then I had to get the goggles on pretty quick. But yeah, it was really windy. I had another quad. I'd replaced a flight control on my little Aquila, and that wasn't getting any sats. And I checked it today, and Caroline's saying you're welcome. Caroline was my inspiration for just doing auto launch, because whenever I see Caroline's Maiden, she's just like, I'm just going to auto launch it. Occasionally, she does mess it up, and she's accidentally touched the sticks or something, and it cancels auto launching. It just wee blop. But yeah, mine worked well, and it's well worth doing. Some wings, not that one particularly, can be pretty tricky to launch. So if you can get both hands on them and like do a proper overhead or take a run up, it's much better than having to do your normal like one sort of throttle stick and that side throwing and stuff. But yeah, my other quad I was testing that day, GPS wasn't locking any satellites. I was looking at it today, and I put like a battery isolator on the GPS so I could just power the GPS. You see it get a lock, plug the quad in, boom, and it just loses the lock instantly, which I thought, that's interesting, because the only thing I've swapped here is the flight controller. So I'm trying to get some comment back from my friends at Rush FPV, who's very nice flight controller, but not so good, it would seem, if you have a GPS.
What's your favourite GPS? I saw you were scoring something like 22 satellites, which is pretty good going.
Yeah. Oh, it's so easy on a wing though, because I can put the GPS like a mile away. It's not like a quad.
Right. Yeah.
It's like it's over here.
I was thinking I don't get more than 12 or 14. How's he getting 22?
Yeah. Also with iNav, you can add GLONASS or whatever. The Russian
GLONASS.
GLONASS.
You can do that with Beta Flight, can't you? Or is it?
I don't know.
Because the GPS is here, and the closest electronics is like over a foot away over here. I mean, you've got this servo, but that doesn't do much. So yeah, that's why that locks in so well. It's like it's not near to anything. If you could do that on a quad, you'd be laughing.
The way you spoke about it in your video, I got the impression you don't use iNav, and this was a first try.
Pretty much. I did a couple of configs before, but not very successfully. I had iNav. If you ever watched, I did this 2.6 meter glider, where iNav was set up on it, and it seemed to be okay. But what had happened is I didn't realise that the tail needed to be screwed on. So halfway through flying it, somebody noticed that the V-tail, which should be like this, was now like that. And then my friend there, Rob, who we've had on the show before, said, "Do you want me to land it? I can land it line of sight." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you go ahead, because I'm not a great line of sight pilot, and we want to make sure it doesn't work, make sure nothing bad happens." Give him the radio, and he's like, "Okay, coming in," and it just spirals down and then exploded in a bunch of bits. I was like, "Okay, I'm glad I gave that to you, Rob." And then the other
just
thing,
mic drop the radio and walk off at that point, like, YOLO, I'm like, done.
We're done. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, you just get a bit of carbon fibre to sort that out." It's like there's bits everywhere. Yeah, I put it on this other wing. It was by the same guys that made the mini race wing, which was a real bitch to launch. But this other wing was slightly easier to launch, and everything looked set up right. I thought I'd done all the checks. So I eventually launched it after launching it into the ground about 50 times, because it's only got a very small 5-inch prop because it spins it really quickly, but it means you've got to get some speed behind it when you throw it. As soon as it's going fast, you're okay, but the launch is difficult. But got that in the air, and I flicked on iNav to like angle or whatever, and it's flying along fine. I'm flying manually. Switch to angle, it just flips upside down and just holds its position perfectly upside down. I was like, I've done something wrong here, haven't I? I've accidentally made a invert flight switch instead of anything else, and that one seemed to pop a 50 amp ESC when I was giving it full beans. Fortunately, I was high enough to glide it back to the field I was in, and I hadn't done it since. But so this was my first proper iNav build. But I did use basically the crib sheets from Painless. I watched Painless's videos on setting up like a version 3 or 4 iNav build, and it has some really good stuff in it because it did explain about what stuff like auto trim is and why you'd use and how to use auto level and auto tune, and it had some of his CLI settings for the auto launch, which I used a whole bunch of. So I was fairly confident. You know, I'd done some bits in the garden so I could check that the surface was reacting properly. I did
made sure it was the right way up and everything.
Yeah, I did this fake launch where you basically arm it because auto launch is always on. You put the throttle to 4 and it sort of starts up, and then I wanted to check as I move the wing because it senses the G-force or the acceleration that it had, and it said yes, you're launching, and then it fires the throttle up full. So I checked that was okay, and I was like, oh, it's fine after that point. And you know, you can get back on the sticks pretty quickly, and I'm quite used to just throwing a wing, having it going at a very weird angle and having to get it back quickly whilst I've got the goggles on. So doing it line of sight.
Can you do that with a quad and have it just so you like throw it up in the air, and at the apogee of the throw it just like throttles up and hovers there? That'd be pretty cool.
Pretty good.
I
like to think you could just turn it on and do that. We should try that. Just get someone to throw it, in your hands, someone else arms it.
Yeah. You could have it so there's like an auto launch, but it doesn't spin in your hand. It just spins like at the middle of the trajectory, the apogee, like when it's weightless, and then it starts spinning there. So it would just like throw up and then just hover and stay there instead of falling back down again.
I think it'd be fun, but often finding a launch point for a quad is not a problem, is it? Because it's small and it just goes straight up, as opposed to...
It'd just be a cool trick when you're at the field, like everyone else is kind of, getting things out, and you just like take your quad out of the bag with the battery on and just throw it in the air.
That could work. That'd be nice. But just to demonstrate how windy it was, my brother-in-law, it's his farm I'm flying on. He wanted me to do some aerial photos of this barn because he wants to do planning permission. And when we were in the sort of the yard of the farm, it felt quite sort of calm because the wind is elsewhere. It's like we're protected. And I got I had my little Mavic Air with me, which is, it's not tiny, the Mavic Air. It's not like is it Mavic Air? Yeah, Mavic Air. It's not like the Mavic Mini, which is absolutely tiny. But as we started going up, he's like, oh yeah, a bit higher and get that bit. It's like suddenly I'm looking down and it's like, I'm not looking at the farm anymore. And that's because the wind had got it and it was just going away and away and away. And I was like, put the stick all the way forward and it's just kept going further away. So I was like, oh, I'll just pop it and return home. No, kept going away and away and away. So I had to put it in sport mode so I could get enough lean on the quad to actually bring it forwards to land it again. So it's quite nasty out there. I'm looking forward to better weather soon.
Jesus.
What about you, Jack? Did you get up in the air at all?
No. I've had car malarkey this week, and haven't been feeling that great. I did win an eBay auction though for I think people might recognise it, a KK2HC, which is a hard case.
Oh.
So this was the KK2 without the screen.
I don't think I'd ever heard of it before you mentioned it before. I just always assumed that all KK2s had proper screens with them.
So I'm going to take this one that's broken and float the chip off this one and put it on the 30x30, and that way we could slightly go even further in the past. But am I right in thinking Was KK after multi-Wii or before?
The KK, the original KK was before multi-wave. The KK2 I think was after.
Sorry,
I
Stephen,
got
what were
the
you going
date
to say?
somewhere.
I was wondering if you're going to go into antiques restoration after all this.
Not far off, and I've had a bit of a mare this week. You know how I bought the Happy Model receivers with the open LRS. I proceeded to destroy my Tyrannus. The buttons went in, and you know, the usual Tyrannus. You press the buttons, they get a bit sticky. Press really hard, and the buttons went inside, and the spine of it was just totally broken. And then I had to had to nab a new case, and then tightening the the transmitter neck strap. I've managed to snap the bolt off that, so that I've had to order one from bloody America. You know, trying to
Is
tighten
it a special bolt or something?
Well, it's it's just the the eyelet where the transmitter goes.
You've
and
just
with
strip the thread out, or
just
don't know your own strength, mate.
Oh, just like some people just have this one, like one mode, destroy. I was in that mode where I wished
you just applied 25% too much force to everything, and it all goes a bit wrong.
Yeah, presented by Jack Dickinson. Yeah, I know.
One interesting fact that is you fall over in the same verbal trap that I do. I often say, and I've noticed in some videos, and I just ignore it. I was like, someone will complain about it, but whatever. The amount of times I've accidentally said Open LRS instead of Express LRS, which you just did,
is a valid project, but a totally different project.
Which is an old open source 433 project from many years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing I keep falling over is saying FGPA instead of FPGA, which several people have picked up on.
Yeah, like 6 times in one video. I was practically shouting at you after the 4th time.
I know. It's just it's not like if I said it out loud, it's like yeah, programmable gate array. Obviously, it would be fine. But as soon as you get into the verbal thing of saying it becomes a thing. When my wife tries to tell people we have an electric car now, she keeps saying we have an electric guitar, which confuses many people because they're wondering what on earth she's talking about and why is that relevant to the conversation they're having about cars at the time. But it's just one of those weird things.
Yeah.
Oh, Blue Owl is here.
Hello, Blue Owl.
Blue Owl
on the run, girl.
Wonder where she's got to on her travels. And there's Mads as well. Apparently, Curry Kitchen is also a popular channel.
It sounds like something I would watch. It sounds like an awesome cookery show about curry. It sounds awesome.
It sounds like maybe a channel you do on the side every now and then.
I wish. I just don't have the patience to cook stuff. No.
Okay.
Also don't have any time.
Right. No, carry on.
They stole Jack's idea. How very dare they take an idea that was 6 years old and make a video about it.
Jack is keeping very quiet about this, but Cole, our resident Canadian, is saying, Jack, what about you being Mr. DJI now, huh? So
I've got no idea what you're on about.
That you have now caved and you've bought a pair of DJI goggles. Is this correct?
I haven't got a receiver. So, yeah.
A transmitter.
Well, that could just mean you stole them.
Transmitter, yeah. Yeah. I need to. Yeah, I need to get one. How are you, Blue Owl? Where are you? Where in the world are you? Desperately trying to change the subject.
Which exciting place is Blue Owl currently in? Yeah, so you're going to make a very retro quad, but when it gets to the video, it's just going to be crisp 720p 60 digitally transmitted then. You'll be able to see every minute oscillation and irregularity of that flight controller, which is perhaps the best way to experience it. You won't be losing any of those foibles.
Why are you keeping so quiet about your DJI purchases, Jack? Are you embarrassed? Is it being like caught coming out of a sex
He's an
shop
antique
or something?
stealer.
Yeah.
It'd be like a wine connoisseur admitting they went to buy a bottle in Tesco's. Can't do that.
What, of
Yeah, a
boxed
little
wine?
bit.
Yeah.
Frank, what were you saying? The SCAB, what does that mean?
Till he flies the scab. I don't know who the scab is. Oh, in related news, because we have news, I noticed Bardwell finally put out his 4.3 tuning video, and it was all going really well, and he covered almost everything, and he got to the bit where he was doing feed forward, and he started to stop at that point because the end of his bell fell off. He wasn't using unibell motors, and they just disassembled themselves. So I guess the motto is be careful when flying Betaflight 4.3 because your bell end may fall off. So just a public service announcement there.
It's always. I quite like that.
I haven't been keeping up very well. Is 4.3 actually released now, not just
they've got up
release
to
candidate number
RC3,
whatever?
RC4 about to drop any
So
day.
it's still release candidate.
Yeah, chewing through RCs. Pretty much everything works unless you're in a niche now. Like if you've got an F411 that isn't running ELRS, or you've got an F405 or an F7, it's all golden. If you've got an H7, it's a little bit flaky. And if you've got one of these new combined boards with an F411 and embedded SPI connected Express LRS receiver, it's a bit flaky. But outside of that, it's fine.
Because I saw that Express LRS released 2.3, but I haven't looked to see what's new in there.
They just added the final release of the backpack, didn't they? I think on that one. So the backpack's now 1.0, and they incorporated HD0 support to the backpack.
Oh yeah,
so now it covers the whole gamut of tunable videos options, analog and HD0. Obviously, we're not going to see DJI because DJI just don't give a damn anymore. But it's nice that HD0 have come on board. You have to open it up and you solder onto the back. It looks a bit of a fiddly soldering operation. Like to get the 5-volt power, you've got to solder to the end of a pretty small resistor, but it's doable.
Caroline's talking about Mayon High being a manned drone pilot on.
Well, I think they said the first season was unmanned because this is Death Trap and Co, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we examined their soldering on this show, having looked at some of that safety inspection from the crash, and it looked like. Well, it looked worse than if I'd done it. Quite frankly, it was really nasty, wasn't it? So
it was like Tony had done it with his mouth.
I remember Frank
except
pointing
it would have been
out
safe with Tony because he would have used gaffer tape.
The XT60, where the circuit board had the outline of an XT60, and it was rotated 180 degrees and then soldered on the other way. It was just so many things were not good about it.
Yeah. What are they called? Component markers, I think what it is. Outline.
Silkscreen.
Yeah, silkscreen. They are silkscreen on. It was just horrendous, man. I don't envy anyone who.
I'm pretty sure they said the first season is without people in the craft. The first season is like, let's get the tech problems out of the way. I don't think there's going to be anyone in there. I mean, they've managed to land it in someone's farm and weren't able to fail safe, and they like punched it up into commercial airspace, completely lost controls. They seem like a bunch of muppets, really. But yeah, she apparently moved to Australia to do that as well, from the sound of it. So evidently they've persuaded her that it's safe and going to work.
Quick straw poll to people in the chat and you guys here. I know a lot of people fly FPV. You're talking?
No, I was going to say you can do a poll if you want to log in as Let's Show Now in the chat.
I don't really want to log out as a poll, but people tell me. Okay. So my point of view is one of the reasons I like to fly FPV is because it's stuff that I wouldn't do in like a full-size plane. I just want to do sort of dangerous stuff, not in dangerous to like people. Like flying around trees in a full-size plane would be insane. And I know a lot of people sort of fly FPV with aspirations of getting into full size, like paramotoring or flying or gliding or whatever. It's not for me at all. So when someone talks about going in a manned quad, especially one with that sort of build quality, I get a bit worried. I'm just wondering, amongst the guys out there and amongst you guys, is flying full size stuff something you aspire to, or are you very happy in just playing with the toys?
I'd quite like to fly someone else around in a quad and then like do snap rolls and see if I could get them to vomit while doing a snap roll, just to see what it looked like.
So you're just a psychopath.
More toys, more fun. But no, I'm not really interested in it. Manned stuff, like if I'm flying manned, I'd probably just want to get from A to B. Like driving a car isn't enjoyable. I often think, why isn't this car not just autonomous so I could read a book?
I didn't Mythbusters make a vomit comet chair where they blindfold you and they've got like tennis balls on it or something. They spin you one way and I don't know, you just instantly throw up through motion sickness. I don't know.
It sounds like something they would do, certainly.
Hey, Tony is here. I know he watches. How you doing?
Don't you find that the more you fly FPV, the less susceptible to motion sickness you get?
I don't know. I'm sure.
Found the less scared I get. For example, my daughter, who is just starting to learn to drive, I let her drive me home from the shop the other day, and despite like it being a little bit dodgy, I was perfectly fine. She congratulated me for being so calm. She expected me to be very sort of angry and tightly wound and stuff. I'm like, it's fine. You didn't hit any trees and stuff like that. It's like getting through. If you can get through an FPV flight where you don't like hit some branches, it's fine. And it's kind of like I said, like you didn't hit any trees, you didn't hit any people. Good overall. We landed in terms that we parked. We slightly overshot, just like an FPV landing, but it was good enough for me. So I think FPV makes you more tolerant of danger.
Yeah, I especially when you first start, you are literally when you're a newbie and you haven't had any external input from someone who's been doing FPV or RC for many years, you do just stick your hand in the props and fly where you shouldn't, and you know, you're just so excited. You just, you know, you don't really think about everything. You just want to fly constantly.
Run through a couple of the comments that we've got in the chat here, because we've got a fair few people commenting. Andrew / Frank is saying he's happy not to be physically at risk from his flying, which I think is a good sentiment. You know, if you do crash, you're not going to break a leg, unless you fly into yourself. Limited conditions in which if you crash, you hurt yourself. AudioGek FPV, I fly because it's stress relieving. Flying in a full-size one or controlling one would probably result in the opposite. Someone else, Grumpy RC Flyer, can't fly, shit scared of heights. Have you seen the way the wings flap on a plane?
Or flex.
Yeah, flex is probably well, yeah, it's either a joke or yes. I guess the wings do probably wobble a whole bunch, but you don't notice.
That would make for a good VTOL jet, wouldn't it? But yeah, if you're sat near the wings of like a commercial jet, there is quite a lot of movement. Of course, they have to move because else they'll rip apart. But they still like wave about quite a distance. I know that there's people who don't want those window seats because they don't want to look at that.
Yeah, Numbskull continues. I'm very glad FPV isn't manned with my flying capabilities, and Lurgy happy with my feet on the ground. It's not so painful when you hit a tree. This is something that has been brought up in the past of, oh yeah, there has to be all this legislation for RC aircraft because your life isn't at risk, and if your life was at risk, you'd be more careful. And yet the stories that come out of light aircraft aviation, especially in the United States, there are just Harrison Ford is not a statistical outlier here. People do stupid things in light aircraft. Yeah, I think we should remember that. It's not going to make people be sensible all of a sudden. Just like there's bad drivers on the roads, there's definitely bad flyers in
I,
light aircraft.
I remember being at Hidden Valley, and the years that we were allowed to be there, you spend quite many hours in a field, and randomly, every now and again, there'll be someone who flies out there and practices aerobatics in a full-size aircraft in the middle of the valley. And that was like a real thing, and we were just like, what the? So yeah, people do stuff, and I got to witness that.
Interesting mention in that list of reasons there about people doing it to relieve stress. We've mentioned a few times about how it really seems to help people. Any sort of mental health problems, FPV can seemingly really help. Just getting out there and being able to let it all go and put it into a couple of packs is the way to many people's happiness.
Yeah, definitely a good thing. Good reason to get outside as well if you're not into your outdoor exercising, especially this time of year when the world is full of mud. You kind of need a reason to go and stand in the field, don't you? And it's nice to have something fun to do.
Yeah, especially when it's all blowy. Although the man, I met two guys in the field. One was doing metal detecting, and I was like, "You didn't see a GPS around here, do you?" I think I asked it the other week. And another guy was just going past with his dogs, and I was explaining what I was doing, and he's like, "You can't fly that here, will you? You'd lose it." And I was like, "Oh, I already flew the plane. It was fine." But he was just talking about the buzzards in the sky, and saying there are a couple of types of eagles just reintroduced the Isle of Wight. I'm down on the south coast of England. If you carry on a little bit over, there's the Isle of Wight. And he said occasionally they come over and they sort of circle up like half a mile, and then they just come and swipe something off the ground. He's like, he's only got little dogs. He's like, I keep having to put my eye up. So look out for eagles if you're a small dog owner on the south coast of England. They'll get you.
Didn't someone lose a chihuahua? That happened, like in America, some sort of eagle.
It could happen. Some of
happen.
the eagles are absolutely like giant, and their talons are like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the bald eagle, the American one's actually one of the smaller and weaker eagles, but some of them get really large, especially in like Peru and countries
Harpy
like that,
eagle, I think, is one of the biggest.
Yeah.
They sort of, it's like, oh, there's a monkey there, I'll have that.
Yeah. Well, around where my parents live, there's a load of kites. The bird, not the wind-propelled aircraft. And yeah, people leave out stuff in their gardens, whether it's for them or for other animals, I don't know. But you every now and then see one of them just cut its wings in and just bomb down and come up with a bit of meat or something out of someone's garden that they've left out. Leave out chicken thighs and stuff.
Weirdly enough, a quick tip for anybody that wants to film red kites and maybe buzzards as well. They're very similar looking, but one's the tail's slightly different on one than the other. Is if a field's being ploughed, despite like red kites like being able to take out rabbits and stuff, if a field's being ploughed, you will get a line of kites following it along, just picking out the insects. Although they're big birds, you will get loads of them. So if you get your cine whoop down there following a tractor along, it's a good excuse to film them.
Nice. Yeah, they're pretty cool. It's nice to see them just hanging there in the thermals. Jeez. Yes. He's posted the review to the AAIB report on Airspeeder's incident, which was a very near miss, I think. It landed quite close to someone's house.
God, that is terrifying.
Yeah, it doesn't bear thinking about it. I hope they've learned, but the fact that they started out with levels of safety that were slightly worse than what I had when I started building like 2-inch micro quads does worry me a bit. Like, they're doing this with something that's 50 kilos and they can't understand how to rig up a failsafe. That's just boggle the mind a little bit. Look at people who build X-Class, and the amount of care and concern they put into those things is huge. And then these Airspeeder people look like they'd spent more time on their canopy than they had on their safety features, which was, it's not good. Not good at all.
Yeah, we need to, and old Tony, have you, Tony's in the chat. Have you done anything with your X class? Have you sorted that yet? Because I know he needs to rebuild it. Yeah, man, we need to get the website sorted, Stephen. We
The
definitely
website?
need to.
Excuse me?
The Let's Show Now website. You were saying we could sort out the Let's Show Now website.
Okay, that was a sharp turn. Yes. There was one of the links that was wrong on it. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
We'll try and fix that. I posted the link to the merch. I hope that's all right. Numbskull. Yeah, he said it's fine. So, Curry, what else have you been up to? Anything? Any reviews? Anything?
No. Yeah, I've been trying to finish some reviews, but some stuff's not been working. I had a quite not very exciting review of a sort of pie-powered robot-y car thing, and then the Aquila that I was trying to fly for doing something with a flight controller, but nothing. Just looking, see what I got there. Nothing particularly exciting coming up. I was more about going back to some other projects, like I've got this. Where are we? Can't find it. This board
I'm just
here.
Posting a video I found off this Polestar car, which is a car that launches a drone out of the back because reasons.
That's never going to happen. Yeah. This is a combination Express LRS receiver with a VTX, which I'm trying to install in this Whoop, which means I have to take the entire thing out, which is a pain in the butt, and seeing if this thing then fits back in it. So I've got sort of bits and pieces on the go. This just looks like bollocks to me.
Nothing says I'm a big poser. I mean, you buy a Lamborghini, you look like a bit of a twat, but nothing really says I'm a big poser like buying a car that includes the facility to photograph itself built into the car. Like, you have to be a massive poser to do that.
It's just not going to happen, though, is it? Because it's like, just legislation-wise, you can't have a quad that suddenly launches from
maybe
the car
if you're driving it in
you.
the middle of Africa or somewhere where there's essentially no laws governing this, I don't know. You'd have to be pretty far out of the way, I'd have thought.
Yeah.
Probably in Saudi Arabia, isn't it?
Caroline's saying total marketing hype. I think she's absolutely right there. It's just like,
look
what we could do, but it's not going to happen. It's like
Meanwhile, in other news, the people everyone loves to hate have produced another radio. This is FR Sky, who've come up with the radio that no one wanted. Free Sky, FR. Yeah, okay, maybe. This is a new X-Lite with a 3.5-inch sliding touchscreen.
Whoa!
Because they can, evidently. You notice that there's
like a PSP Go, doesn't it?
There's no lanyard to attach the thing to your neck, but there is 2 D-pads and a sliding touchscreen. So I think you know kind of who their audience is for this. And this is a tandem radio. The cool part here is it's not just FR Sky, because everyone knows that's not getting the hype these days. So we now have the FR Sky twin module, which is both Express LRS and D16. The combination that no one was asking for.
Don't forget Access, because that's what all the cool kids use.
Oh, yeah. Access, the people who've accidentally upgraded their firmware and can't downgrade. That's the choice of that few poor people.
I might as well rip the module out of my... who uses Access anyway? Sorry, Stephen, cut you off.
No, go ahead. Yeah, so Access came after ACST, right? That's the new one. The 2.x version is Access, and the 1.x version is ACST.
No.
Right?
The 2. Whatever version is still ACCST. Access is a different protocol again.
Fine.
Which didn't catch on.
Can't even keep up with it.
Yeah, and didn't they find a bug that never affected anyone, and it was just a way to be really mean and update
They found a
the
bug
whole
that caused a
D16?
twitch, and apparently caused a twitch, which could result in loss of. Well, they said loss of control, but it's just like a servo twitch. And instead of just fixing the bug, they forced everyone to upgrade to a non-backwards compatible version of the firmware, instead of just patching the existing firmware, which they could have done. They just used it as, oh, yeah, that's why you need to totally change to this system that's incompatible with all your whoops and everything. I'm sure people will buy it. I mean, they must have done their research. Either that or this company is just.
I think they're just desperate. I don't know anybody that's like, oh, new Free Sky Radio, because they went from absolute pinnacle of everything they could do no wrong to these guys are the worst. Let's try something else. And then all the other radio manufacturers jumped in. Very easy to steal their thunder. And the way Free Sky fought back was just to piss everybody else off more. And they're like, they just added fuel to the fire and dug their own grave. Really odd.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people running weird and wonderful radios, trawling through these Express LRS forums. And I'm not seeing anyone running this EthOS, which is FR Sky following up to OpenTX. They appear to have, the toys are fully out of the pram at this point, because not content with trying to steer OpenTX development by inserting their own paid-for developers and gatekeeping the development using that method, they've now moved entirely away from OpenTX and have EthOS, which does less than OpenTX did, but runs on the new hardware, which, again, no one asked for. So they basically said they're not going to be supporting these old radios. It's all EthOS at this point. It's pretty confusing. Anyway, look at it.
God. That is horrendous. Is it just me, or was SPI Free Sky _X mode completely shit for whoops? Like, you just fail safe constantly.
There's a long-running RC groups thread. I think that's largely due to the fact that everyone corner cuts on those SPI receivers. But yeah, there's a long-running thread about how it would just randomly fail-safe when you're flying past your knee or something.
Well, it started off where if you ran Free Sky X, then it would overload the flight controller, and the flight controller would just lock up. You wouldn't even get RX loss. It would just like, oh, I've frozen. It would be like
just brain freeze,
literally freezing, and just and then it would recover. But in that 2 seconds, you've already crashed into a tree. But at best, there were a couple of guys that put proper receivers in it. I've got one of the Emax freestyle little 2-inch quads, and they put a proper sized receiver on their SPI, and you can get about 300 meters out of it. And that was kind of the idea. But I was flying inside because I was testing one of the Beta FPV radios, which aren't particularly good, and I was flying from here, flying downstairs in the whoop into the conservatory, and it would fail safe in the conservatory, which is, to be fair, it's through a couple of floors, and because it was the Beta FPV radio, I'm holding it like this, and essentially the wire is like that, so it's like null point. Fly it with a Tyrannus, it's okay, but they're pretty bad.
I can fail safe my whoops flying them. I'm upstairs here, and if I fly out down the stairs and then go to the other side of the house, I will fail safe. Like, even not 200 milliwatt, I'll start to get video breakup and fail safe. But that's because I've got loads of wiring running through the wall, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it was a nice idea, but you just didn't have the proper hardware. At least the Express LRS ones I've seen either have the little ceramic tower antenna or a proper antenna, and they obviously work a lot better, because at the end of the day, you're not after miles of range. You just want, within a field or within your house.
If you're standing in the same room as you're running through like a little whoop racing course, you're fine. That's the use case, really. If you're flying through a wall or outside, you could probably say, oh well, whoops aren't really designed for that. With maybe make the argument.
Yeah, it's kind of fair, but at least I feel like SPI in sort of the Free Sky stuff is hopefully dead and buried now, and like SPI in the future is just going to be Express LRS, because everything seems to be Express LRS these days.
Is this right, what Frank said? Why the the
No,
would you want?
I don't think that's what it's saying. I think it's saying the module can run Express LRS or D16 or
Well,
Access. I think you
I
choose
don't
one
know.
or the
Frank
other.
reads stuff.
Yeah, he actually did read what I put on screen. Let me just do this again. It does say that
Can
there
you
are
read the
two
comment, please, for the audio listeners?
YTF would you want a receiver that runs two 2.4 protocols in parallel? And from the marketing blurb here, we can clearly see it boasts a 3.5-inch sliding touchscreen, angled 5 degrees towards the user for greater ease of use, rounded hand
Just
grips with
move it.
comfortable design, 4 standard trims with 2 extra trims, twin
What?
2.4G RF module running on the EthOS, support 4 RF protocol, and then highly resilient RF module providing dual 2.4 gig signals working simultaneously together, not just individually together, but working simultaneously together, which is double together. I think that just means it's got diversity. I don't think it means it runs FR-SCSI at the same time as Express LRS, because surely even FR-SCSI aren't quite that bad, are they?
You'd hope not, but who can tell?
Yeah, Frank says it specifically asks. No, hang on. The poster said. I can't say that word. Specifically said receiver.
Why would you buy a receiver that did 2 protocols? It's like, oh, I might want to fly it differently today. It's like, come on, just stick with one. I might want to choose a different radio to fly it with.
It says
I'm random
dual
like that.
2.4 gig receivers, but I thought that just means diversity when they say dual. I mean, there's just no reason to run 2 different protocols because each is going to have different framings. You get you get different latency from each protocol. It's just going to be like a disaster zone, isn't it?
Have you got a price for it by any chance? Do you have one?
Someone said they asked for one but couldn't get a price. I think that was It's Blunty mentioned it, said that he'd asked, but they didn't have a price yet.
Night, Tony. Shall we call it there, guys?
I guess so. We've been going a whole hour.
Yeah. Stephen, by the way, excellent news topics and stuff. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
That was
And if
amazing.
anyone has anything they want us to talk about, please hop onto Discord and there is a news and topic contribution thread. Chuck what you find interesting in there and we will feature it. Thank you.
And you can, if you do really, really well, I'll send you stickers.
Yeah.
Also, I upgraded my extraction system. So if anyone wants my old soldering extractor, comes with Curry Kitchen stickers and that, message me on Discord and the postage, you can have it. So,
You got the sophisticated option. That's my soldering extraction system.
yeah.
It's a PC fan with a USB to 12 volt power adapter currently snaked around a quad.
Yep. So yeah, hit the like and subscribe button. It was lovely to see some new people in here, and the old familiar faces. We were graced by Zero FPV. Grumpy was here. Ben Scarborough was here. Ryder FPV, RC Robotics. I hope you're all right, buddy. Saw your post. I hope everything's okay.
Some
Blue
people
Owl.
call the Tonstar and Andrew/Frank. Yeah, and Blue Owl. Whoever they may be.
Caroline, bless you. Numbskull, Richard Warwick. You guys are heroes. So, you've been listening to Let's Drone Out. You've been joined by everyone's favourite co-kitten.
Goodbye.
The lovable Stephen.
Cheers. Bye.
And I've been Bright Till I Fly. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
DJI